I'm an American who moved to China. I think that living conditions in China are much better than they are in the United States. Now, I started coming to China in 2016. At that time, you might have been able to say that the United States was better than China. But I don't think that's true anymore. When I say things like this, many people challenge me and say that I just see the big cities or I don't know what rural life is like in China. I don't live in the city. I live in rural China. Traveled to other rural areas in China.
Criminalizing homelessness in a country where the minimum wage is $7.25 an hour and studio apartments start at $1,300 is so fucking evil. There are literally 28 vacant homes for every homeless person. Just give people homes. Housing is a human right.
The United States doesn't want you to have access to social services because then you won't join the military. I spent most of my childhood on military bases moving around, and that's my personal theory. What radicalized me was going to public school and realizing not everybody gets access to all of this. I remember talking to my classmates when I first started going to public school, and I was like, y'all can't just pop over and get an eye exam? You can't just go to the doctor? I thought everybody had that. And that's when all the adults swooped in. They were like, no, like, this is only for military. I'm like, why? We do it for us. Like, we're capable of it. Why can't they get it? It's like the most evil version of gatekeeping, where it's like, oh, only if you're willing to die for us and ruin your mental, emotional, physical, spiritual well-being, then you deserve to have basic human care and services.
It's so crazy how our government doesn't really serve the people. They do things that actually would prove otherwise, that literally they do things to target their own citizens. And I know that this is probably happening in more places around the world, but like just the fact that our government literally is against the people rather than for the people, and our taxpaying dollars is what employs them and gives them the jobs and gives them the money for their job, but they don't actually serve the people. They're actually basically all bought out by a different country that's telling them what to do and how to feel about things.
30 years ago, a narrative was cemented in the global consciousness. One nation was the undeniable champion of the future, a place of boundless opportunity, innovation, and the good life. The other was often dismissed, seen as playing catch-up from a century of hardship. But what if, in the quiet pursuit of a different dream, the roles have begun to reverse? What if the blueprint for 21st century quality of life isn't being written where we were told it would be?
I'm an American who moved to China. I think that living conditions in China are much better than they are in the United States. Now, I started coming to China in 2016. At that time, you might have been able to say that the United States was better than China. But I don't think that's true anymore. When I say things like this, many people challenge me and say that I just see the big cities or I don't know what rural life is like in China. I don't live in the city. I live in rural China. Traveled to other rural areas in China. But I grew up in rural America, and nothing has changed there. Life in rural China has gotten much, much, much better. In fact, life everywhere in China has gotten better. But if you ask an American, they'll tell you that life in America has gotten worse. China has invested in infrastructure to benefit everybody over the years. The United States has not done this. We don't even have high-speed rail. Most cities do not have bus service or subways. Roads are not safe enough to ride scooters. You know, I'm sure they exist, but I've yet to see a pothole in China. Potholes in America will break your car, and they never get fixed. I just got tired of the crumbling infrastructure.
Quality of life begins with how easily you can move, connect, and access. 30 years ago, China's infrastructure was underdeveloped. Their strategy? A historic, state-driven mobilization. Since 2008, they've built over 25,000 miles of high-speed rail, more than the rest of the world combined. This isn't just about speed. It's about economic integration. A young professional in Zhengzhou can reach Beijing for a meeting faster than someone in Philadelphia can get to New York. This foundational philosophy extends to housing. China's approach to homelessness has been profoundly direct, if controversial. Through massive urban renewal and a relentless drive for modernization, they have effectively eradicated visible, large-scale street homelessness in major cities. Critics argue this is through displacement and a lack of personal liberty. Proponents call it a necessary collective societal upgrade. The U.S., with a focus on individual rights and a complex web of nonprofits, has seen homelessness increase, treating the symptoms with shelters and temporary aid, but struggling to build the volume of affordable housing needed to solve the root cause. It's a clash of paradigms, collective uplift versus individual crisis management.
Criminalizing homelessness in a country where the minimum wage is $7.25 an hour and studio apartments start at $1,300 is so fucking evil. There are literally 28 vacant homes for every homeless person. Just give people homes. Housing is a human right. Oh, just because the homes are vacant doesn't mean that no one owns them. Why do people get to own homes they don't even fucking use when there are other people who don't own homes who are suffering and dying on the street? Richest country on the planet, by the way. How about for once we value human life over property? Just for once.
One of the most shocking parts for me about moving to Seattle was the homeless situation and just seeing how prominent it was in the city. I want to be respectful and obviously mindful of the situation, but I do love to get locals' perspectives on why it's so bad and why it has continued to be so bad. And I just think I still haven't gotten a clear answer. On the one hand, I've heard that COVID had a really big impact. On the other hand, I've heard that it started with rise of tech companies moving to Seattle and pricing people out. I've also heard that a lot of money has been given to the government to improve the situation, and they've taken that money and haven't done anything with it. I've also heard that the overly lenient laws in the city has almost enabled the continuation and rise of the homeless situation here. Kind of want to create a safe discussion for people to just educate me at least on why it's so bad, why it has continued to be so bad, and if there's anything that can be done by the people to fix or to improve it.
Now, layer on the digital world. China innovated the smartphone-dependent society. In one generation, they leapfrogged credit cards and desktop computers, building an all-in-one mobile ecosystem. WeChat and Alipay aren't just apps. They are the operating system for daily life, for payments, socializing, government services, and even healthcare appointments. The convenience is staggering. You can live a cashless, wallet-less life with breathtaking efficiency. Here's the crucial, uncomfortable trade-off. This seamless digital life is enabled by a level of social management the West finds alien. China's social governance model uses data to manage populations. For homelessness, this means integrated records, linking identity, family, employment history, and social services. It allows for targeted, mandatory relocation and family-linked support systems. The future strategy is smart cities where AI and sensors manage everything from traffic to public safety. America's plan is more fragmented. Pilot programs for universal basic income, debates over data privacy, and an immense challenge in integrating health, housing, and criminal justice data across thousands of jurisdictions. One offers a comprehensive, top-down system. The other, a patchwork of local experiments.
Yeah, I'm going to tell you about my experience living overseas real quick. I lived in 3 different countries, and I'm going to get y'all hip. I would say the best country I lived in was China. When I first went there, I was 23. I played pro basketball there, and it was kind of scary to go there at first, but when I got there, I was shocked. And when I say shocked, I mean in a good way, because after a month of staying there, I felt like I wasn't even overseas anymore. That's how comfortable I felt, even though I was a 6'8" black male that played basketball. The Chinese people there were very welcoming, and they just allowed you to enjoy their culture and the things that they enjoy. And, I found it very pleasant. It had everything you would need, as a Westerner. It was shocking. I mean, certain foods you even enjoyed and things of that nature. You really weren't missing out on anything. A lot of Western restaurants and, malls and, things for entertainment and stuff like that. And people get this wrong perception about, countries overseas. And I really tell people to go travel and see for themselves. Like, I was an anomaly as a person in that country, and I was very comfortable. I mean, yeah, you get some stares here and there because you are different compared to, the people that are there, but nothing harmful, nothing hateful, nothing that made me feel uncomfortable. And that was the best part about it. I could just walk around comfortably and enjoy my life like I was back home. The quality of living was really top notch. I mean, I was able to save like I never saved before because of how cheap it is there. I mean, that might have been my favorite part. Like, you were able to save a salary that's not really considered much in America, but your expenses are cut so drastically. And it gave me more freedom to travel in and around Asia even more, which is crazy. So I really advise people, like, if you have the means or connections too, like, networks in different countries to where you can, kind of post up there for a little while and check out the scenery, check out what it has to offer, the vibe. And if that's something for you, do it. Like, there are so many things that make up having a good lifestyle, and you might find more of those things that are important to you in another country than the country you're currently in. And I'm talking to mostly Americans. And like I said, this is coming from someone that stuck out like a sore thumb. So if you're worried about certain things, I wouldn't be so concerned and just take that leap, And the worst that can happen is you just come back home, and that's that. And maybe go to another country to check it out. But definitely give it a shot.
This brings us to the core divergence: future planning. China operates on strategic, decadal plans, Made in China 2025, the dual carbon goals. The state identifies strategic industries, AI, quantum computing, EVs, renewables, and marshals public and private capital towards them. The result? They now lead the world in EV production and battery tech, dominate solar panel manufacturing, and are aggressively pursuing nuclear and fusion energy. They are building the supply chains for the next economy.
We have been sold this idea that the American dream is to become a millionaire. It's not. The American dream is to be a part of a society free of oppression, where every single person has dignity, opportunity, education, and a vote. A society there where people don't starve to death, where they're not homeless, where you can send your kids to school without fear that they'll be shot. To be able to work, support a family without going broke, and to be healthy. To be a part of a society that lifts up all of its citizens instead of oppresses them for the few at the top. Our government was intended to protect individual freedom, but we, in our strive and our want to be rich one day, we protect the corporate elite and their ability to oppress people because we want one day to have the chance to be them. Not saying that our government does not also oppress people. It does, and we should change those parts of it. Freedom is the American dream. Oppression is the dream of the elites because they get to keep all their money.
So, what has China built in 30 years that America has failed to? A unified, national strategy for industrial and technological supremacy. The U.S., in the same period, mastered the art of the stock buyback and the financialization of everything. Our innovation is breathtaking but sporadic, led by private companies answering to quarterly earnings reports, not national resilience. We invented the iPhone but let our chip manufacturing move overseas. We have the world's best universities, but our students drown in debt. Our strategy is the market, and the market excels at generating wealth, not necessarily at building equitable, long-term national capacity.
How about just giving people that need a home inside, then we'd be inside.
Did you know the United States spends $820 billion on defense every year, and we could end homelessness for $20 billion? Yeah, for less than 1% of our annual budget, we could end homelessness. We could provide a place for 550,000 Americans to live. The federal government could give these people tiny homes, access to rehab facilities, career services, and actually help them get back on their feet. But instead, guess where our tax-paying dollars are going? To random ass conflicts around the world, to Israel. They're actually funding war crimes as we speak. This is how much money the United States has given to Israel over the last 2 years. This statistic alone should show you that the federal government does not care about you or me. It cares about furthering its economic interests around the globe and protecting the interests of billionaires who are actively running our country and our world. So when you vote for the Republican Party, whether you know it or not, you are actively taking away funds that could be used to help people like you, or your neighbor, or your mom, or your friend, giving it to a country that you will never visit that is actively committing crimes against humanity.
The United States doesn't want you to have access to social services because then you won't join the military. I spent most of my childhood on military bases moving around, and that's my personal theory. What radicalized me was going to public school and realizing not everybody gets access to all of this. I remember talking to my classmates when I first started going to public school, and I was like, y'all can't just pop over and get an eye exam? You can't just go to the doctor? I thought everybody had that. And that's when all the adults swooped in. They were like, no, like this is only for military. I'm like, why? We do it for us. Like, we're capable of it. Why can't they get it? It's like the most evil version of gatekeeping, where it's like, oh, only if you're willing to die for us and ruin your mental, emotional, physical, spiritual well-being, then you deserve to have basic human care and services. Whenever I see people, especially from other countries, that are like, why doesn't America want social services? Like, that seems counterintuitive. You could say, I don't want children to starve, and then you'll be called like a liberal shill. Like, why is such vitriolic hate to things that are like, maybe we should take care of our neighbors? And part of that is the propaganda that's really been absorbed, and how you'll see military soldiers who are like, unless you fought for this country, you don't deserve anything, which is a totally different mindset than, I don't think you should have to pay to exist. Like, you can't really control who you're born to. And as a country, I think it's our collective duty to take care of the people in our country. But it's this deeply capitalistic ideology that you have to be willing to give everything to get the bare minimum.
China's future looks like more of the same: relentless, top-down execution on stated goals. America's future is a fierce, existential debate. Should the nation even have a coordinated industrial strategy? The CHIPS and Inflation Reduction Act are attempts, but they are fought tooth and nail, vulnerable to reversal every election cycle. One system offers daunting consistency, the other, exhausting volatility.
It's so crazy how our government doesn't really serve the people. They do things that actually would prove otherwise, that literally they do things to target their own citizens. And I know that this is probably happening in more places around the world, but like, just the fact that our government literally is against the people rather than for the people, and our taxpaying dollars is what employs them and gives them the jobs and gives them the money for their job, but they don't actually serve the people. They're actually basically all bought out by a different country that's telling them what to do and how to feel about things. I just feel like that's so crazy. Like, we genuinely have a government that is not in any way trying to help the people, actually. Like, they're realistically more focused on the people who are already at the top and trying to maintain that and hoard whatever wealth comes with that and all their investments and their companies and whatever. But it really blows my mind. And I don't think that this is new. I feel like this has always been going on since this country began, literally. And I don't think it's one side or the other. I feel like it's the government in general. It's literally all of the government, period. I just feel like right now, because of the current administration, we're just seeing it more clearly. But like, it's like, this has always been going on. And it's just wild. Like, the government really targets its own citizens. Because in my opinion, they're getting orders from another country that bought them all out and told them what to do and how to do things and when to do things. Like, you know what I mean? Like, that is just so actually beyond wild to me. And then we are supposed to think that we're in this country working our jobs and contributing to taxes so then we can pay the government workers who are supposed to serve us, the people of the country. But like, that's not what's happening. They literally serve themselves and a whole different country. There's like no way, actually.
The challenge, especially for Americans and Western observers, is this: can we learn from the outcomes of a different system without adopting its values wholesale? Can we rediscover the political will to build, collectively, for the long term? Or will we remain trapped in short-term cycles, admiring the bridges, trains, and networks another civilization is building for its people, while our own foundations slowly erode? The future of quality of life depends on the answer.